We're Batman at 89.
Hello, and welcome back once again to Bat Minutes 89, the podcast where we analyze, scrutinize, and sit around talking about Tim Burton's 1989 Batman film, 1 minute at a time. I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
And I am another one of them, John Parker.
We had Beck Hill there on Monday, terrific guest. But this week, because she couldn't make it back for another 2 episodes, considering how long the first one went in particular. It's just me. It's back to me and John. It's the OG recipe.
We thought we'd cool you down after getting you all hot with that long episode. You know, we'd ease you into the weekend as we go.
Yeah, don't worry though, because we have a consistent guest next week. Not going to spoil it though. You'll have to tune in, guys.
We're getting masters of this promotional work, aren't we?
Oh yeah, a teasing, little tease. You gotta just bait the hook there. But to be fair, any guests who could have come on for these minutes aren't missing much, because these are 2 dry ass minutes we've got coming up right here.
Yeah, there's not a lot of notes here for me. They're not boring. This movie's never boring.
No.
It's just breaking it down minute by minute. These are tough, these 2.
This is like Soupgate, or I call it Soupgate, the soup scene of Vicki and Bruce's date, like times 10, and we don't even have Kit Flemons to fall back on this time.
We should probably say what minute it is.
Yes, this is minute 50. Might be an idea. It begins with Alfred and Bruce talking about Vicki Vale, and it ends 1 minute later with them still talking about Vicki Vale, and very little has happened in between. But
well, I would even go as far to say that the minute starts with Bruce being an absolute ass.
Well, because of the just after the water stealing, or
no, because we cut back in. Alfred, of course, still in his Starbucks uniform. Lovely, dashing. But Bruce, he's being a jerk again for me, because I went into the project loving this guy, but breaking it down like this, no. Because Alfred is totally trying to get the hookup to be permanent for his buddy here, you know. But Bruce just says, why don't you marry her? Like a teenager or something.
Because Alfred, like the first, I feel there's a certain weight that lifts when she's around. She's around one time. Like that one time she was here. I guess technically she was at the party, but could you tell, that the weight had lifted then because he was running around trying to open 6 cases of champagne at the time.
Yeah, he looks stressed. The weight was firmly on.
But Bruce does give him a look of it's not quite petulant, but it is a real look of here we go again. Like Alfred's tried to do something like this before, or at least he knows what he's getting at. He's like, I get it. You think if I hook up with her, then I'll stop this whole damn fool idealistic crusade that I'm going on.
Oh,
and
nice reference.
This clearly joking. Oh, why don't you marry her? But I don't know. Maybe Alfred would be something though if he was looking for permission. He's like, oh, really? Oh,
oh no! I don't have a problem with age gaps necessarily, but this is too much. Sorry, Alfred.
Maybe that was Bruce's plan the whole time. Was just like, I'll bring her into Alfred during the date. He can butter her up, and I'll just slide her on over to him. And there we go. And I can just go on being Batman. I'll get this friggin' butler guy off my back. He's bugging me all the time about, you shouldn't be doing this.
Oh my God, that's a genius plan. He's distracted him with a hot young wife to be. And then he can just carry on doing what he wants to do with no bother.
I do also have another theory, though, because I've done, because this minute is so dry, I've had to do some outside research. And,
oh, what's going on? Research?
But I looked into some of the comic lore, because we did, a beginning of, where Alfred came from and his original iterations and whatnot. And they were great, but we left out one major thing, though. Like, when looking back, I was like, how the hell did we not bring this up before? Because apparently at one point in around 1966, Alfred died.
Oh, yeah.
He was Yeah, he died. Apparently, at one point, he was trailing some criminals that he knew that Batman was after. He got himself captured, and then in the rescue attempt by Batman and Robin, and this is a great. I'll have to put up the still. A boulder was falling, and Alfred pushed them out of the way while driving a motorbike. So old crusty Alfred on a motorbike, swerving, knocking Batman and Robin out of the way, and the boulder crushes him.
Oh,
So
no.
he's dead.
His frail body crushed under rock.
Yeah, but soon thereafter, there appeared a new supervillain called the Outsider. And if you see him, he's like a muscular, slimmed down version of the Thing from Fantastic Four.
Ah.
And his whole thing was that he wanted to kill Batman and Robin. And apparently at one point he sends them coffins with Batman and Robin automatons. And he's
that's
also hooked
cool.
up with he's hooked up with his underlings are the Grasshopper Gang, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a bunch of idiots dressed up as grasshoppers.
That makes me think of there's a wrestling organization. I can't remember what it's called. I think it might be Chikara or something, where there's a whole wrestling group that are ants. They're called the Colony. And there's like worker ant, warrior ant, fire ant.
The thing of it, though, like their whole thing was as someone gets in the ring with them, and then they all just crawl on top of them at once, and they're just writhing around. It's like that's how that's how an ant would kill you. Just overwhelm you with
Yes,
a sheer amount of numbers. So the outsider has his underlings, the Grasshopper Gang, a mysterious witch, and a very Hulk or kind of Solomon Grundy-esque character called Blockbuster, who he gangs around with. And apparently, his whole scheme is to turn Batman and Robin into coffins. Like he wants to turn them.
Oh, I thought he was going to play the TV game show Blockbuster.
No, the Blockbuster is just one of his minions' names, apparently. But
So he doesn't kill people maybe with VHS tapes or anything?
No, but I mean, I'm sure there probably is a Batman villain somewhere that probably does do that, but most likely would have featured in the Lego Batman film as well, because everyone... I actually mentioned to someone the other day, everyone is in the Lego Batman movie except Knox. Like, he didn't even warrant a mention in it. It's like, poor Robert Wool. But
tell you what, if there's a sequel coming anytime soon, get Knox in it.
Yeah.
Get him in it, or we will send in letters of complaint.
I should check. Like, I should double check. As I recall, I've only watched it the once in the cinema. And at that point, I didn't notice any Knox references, but I can double check just to make sure. But I'm fairly certain not even they were like, they'll put in the Condiment King, they'll put in Crazy Quilt, they won't put in Knox. So
boo.
But anyway,
the story.
Yeah. But eventually, Batman and Robin they defeat the Outsider, and it's revealed that it's Alfred. It was Alfred.
I knew you were going to say that, you know.
But apparently what happened is that Alfred hadn't died. He had been, his body was taken and revived through radiation.
Okay, now that I didn't expect.
Yeah.
That's the twist for me.
And that way, he turned into the Outsider. And this seems to be like, it was a short little story. And it seems like that's a pretty crazy thing to have happened. But he just eventually goes back to working as he did before.
You just go, sorry about that.
Yeah. And the Outsider, though, does feature nowadays, though, or did, in the new 52, where they briefly brought in a character called the Outsider, who was the leader of the secret society of supervillains, which was later revealed to be a version of Alfred from Earth 3, which is, obviously another timeline. And in that timeline, Alfred was destitute in the beginning. He helped Thomas Wayne Jr. assassinate his own father, and then he grew up to become Owlman. You can see where they've gone with this. And then they from that he had an encounter with the Jokester, who was actually a hero in this, and I'm sure a character we'll probably end up talking about later. And then through that he was poisoned by him, and then his skin turned pale, much like the original Outsider, but also like the Joker himself. And then he goes around wearing purple, and he tore through dimensions and became a supervillain in Earth Prime, or whatever you want to refer to it as. But
bloody hell, there's so many different Earths. Jesus, thank God they haven't tried to incorporate all this into a film. Because it works in comics, but these movies can get complicated enough as it is.
But so that's like I thought that was an interesting sidebar of like apparently Alfred. But that's worked into my theory going way back to where I originally started this point. Was that he's trying to hook Bruce up with Vicki Vale. This seems to be this whole thing. What if this Alfred is the outsider? He's gone, somehow propelled himself back in time, and he's trying to stop Terminator style, prevent Batman from ever really being a thing. He's starting to, if I hook him up with this woman, I can take him out that way instead of like through physical means.
Yes, I am 100% on board with this. They need to make a sequel to this Batman 89 by splicing new footage in with a bit like, say, Back to the Future, but with many years different between the recording. That'd be amazing. Someone needs to do that. Make it. At least someone put it on YouTube. Make your own little mini version.
Oh, as we tragically know, though, there was an attempt to have a continuation comic of these films that was apparently turned down by DC. Though you can, if people haven't seen it and they're interested, it was by Joe Quinose. I'm not too sure how you pronounce his name. And Kate Leth, who's like a big, online comics person. She's quite famous. And you can see the concept art for it, and it is awesome. And like they have drawings of like they're going to incorporate the Billy D. Williams Two-Face was in there. You actually have him with the disfigurement. Catwoman was back, and then they had like concept drawings of Poison Ivy, which was very obviously based on Gina Davis and stuff.
No, it did look amazing. That artwork, you can see the cover. It looks great. It's a really good idea. I wish they would revisit this idea now, because I mean they've redone the original, the Adam West Batman,
but quite successfully as well. So
it's meant to be fantastic. Actually, I haven't read that, but it's meant to be really good.
Yeah, I believe they're even bringing in like crossovers with like Wonder Woman 77, I think they're calling it. They're going to have Linda Carter's Wonder Woman interacting with Adam West's Batman. It's fantastic. Fantastic idea. It's a shame now, considering they had that, the Return of the Caped Crusaders film, which now they're having a sequel to, because they managed to complete that before Adam West recently passed away. And it's got William Shatner as Two-Face in it and stuff. Linda Carter's still around. You could have had... an Adam. You could have done that in an animated way, but I can imagine they probably won't pursue any more of them now that Adam West's passed. It wouldn't be.
Oh no, you couldn't recast that.
It wouldn't be right. So, but anyway.
In the minute, once Alfred says now, that's not exactly what I had in mind, sir. He's being very diplomatic, but then just after he says that, Bruce has a little look on his face now. Like, I think he realizes that he's treated everybody pretty badly in this situation. Like, he seems to acknowledge it in the space of a second, but he sort of understands that he's too, like, preoccupied and probably shouldn't have started this in the first place. Because then he says, I can't go on with that right now.
It makes me wonder then, because his follow-up to this is, I just found out Jack Napier. Oh, well, Alfred has his, if not now, when? And it's like, that's a fair enough point. And Bruce comes out with his, I just found out Jack Napier is still alive. And this, even Alfred's a bit like, ooh. I wonder, had this whole business with the Joker and just Jack Napier in general, had that not happened, would he have been like, well, maybe I can consider this. Maybe this is a thing I shouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth. Or whether, like, if he had been in that situation where, like, nothing was in his path, he still would have been like, nah, I'm still really into this Batman thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I got the impression, maybe he would have been swayed by it. At least Alfred, his attempts to lock Bruce down would have been more successful, maybe. Because Alfred just wants little bats flying around the manor, doesn't he? That seems to be his concern. He wants to be like a granddad.
Or as we, my working theory now is just like he just wants to prevent Batman from ever being a thing. He's already like, oh, didn't go back far enough. I got this whole business with the Joker, but whatever, I can stop him after that.
I don't know, because to me as well, this sort of shows that Bruce has never really been like a normal guy. Like, this Batman thing isn't a temporary or a new distraction. Because it sounds like Alfred is saying that Bruce has always turned away from good things all the time, and it's like, when are you gonna change? You need to be happy. but he can't be happy. That's what's interesting about this Bruce. I think he's just this is all he does. This is his life. That's it. Screw everything else. Not interested.
But it very much does seem to be, because we get more of that later on as well, when he's just he's talking to Vicki Vale in the Batcave, which is a situation that Alfred creates. Once again, when I think he does say, like, along the lines of, like, I've tried to find ways out of this, but I can't. And it's just like, he is very much set on, like, no, this is it. Like, I'm not. There's no internal struggle all that much with him. It's very much like, no, this is I've decided I'm doing this, and that's the way that is. And if I'm gonna have to deal with this relationship now because it's kind of getting in my way, basically, more than anything.
Seems more like a bird.
Yeah.
It's like, oh god damn, why did I do this?
But we do get this bit then of Alfred kind of reacts to this news of Jack Napier with the appropriate sort of solemn look, which does make me think as well, because, like, this version of Batman, this is pre. Nowadays we'd have like cameras in the cowl, and he'd be talking to Alfred or Oracle through the communicating with the Batcave at all times, so they would know everything that's going on. But I like this idea of, like, Bruce would have to come back and tell Alfred everything. So he'd be like, oh, so what happened tonight, sir? Oh, Alfred, man, it was this guy Jack Napier, and he like he was in the chemical plant, right? And he tried to shoot me in the face, man, but I blocked it with my gauntlet. And he
it was awesome.
It's like he fell over, and it's like, he's kind of dangling over the chemicals, but like, I might have let him go, or he might have just slipped. I can't really tell myself, man.
He slipped,
and then he fell in the chemicals, and like, after that, Jim Gordon was all like, "God damn it, me at him," and just like, and then Alfred's like, "Very good, sir."
Do you think though Alfred listens? I mean, this seems to indicate that he does, but I thought maybe like a partner who just asks every day for 30 years, how was work, honey?
Maybe.
I'm not really listening to the reply.
Yeah, they might just know enough to be like, I know, I've heard that name before. This guy's a big deal. Oh, I'll just look serious. Yeah.
I am surprised though that when it's revealed Napier lives, there's not more of a sort of reaction from him, like, what? Yeah. Bloody hell. It's kind of like, okay.
I wonder too if Bruce is like, has he gathered at this point, because he saw them, like, everyone was dressed up as mimes, and he saw him like, oh, we know that that's the Joker's actual face, but I wonder if he was like, oh yeah, his skin's white now, and it's like he's got this really weird rictus grin on his face, and I don't know if I'm assuming that's to do with the chemicals, maybe, but like, or is it only?
I don't know. I thought maybe he would assume it's part of the costume that he was wearing. So he probably doesn't think he got that grin. He probably thinks he's just like painted it on or something.
Yeah. But it's only like later on when we see him watching the Smilex ad. At that point, he does a little tug of the tie there as well. So it could be like a real, like, oh, so this is what's happened, But another thing, though, it comes out with that I thought was quite interesting is that he does specifically say he's running Grissom's men, which yes. And we talked before about, like, oh yeah, the goons. Like, I think our theory we came up with Jack Harvey was that, like, oh, this is like Jack Napier's old biker gang that he's just gotten back together, and that's why they're just up for doing all kinds of crazy antics. But nope. Unless maybe Bruce is just assuming these are Grissom's men when they still are some of the psychos that Jack Napier rounded up. But like in many ways, if you're watching the film as a literal, he knows what he's talking about. I guess we're supposed to take it that these people were Grissom's underlings at some point.
Yeah. I don't know how he so quickly got them on board with his whole new Joker thing. Like, imagine just being a hardened gangster and then this guy comes forward with this idea. You'd be like, wait, you want me to do what?
It might be very much like Ricorso or Tony Ritelli, who did have unfortunate reactions to the whole Joker thing and didn't live too long to tell the tale, really. But
I'm guessing that is all it is. Like, he's basically gone, well, you don't want to end up like that guy, so you're going to be, doing what I say, dressing how I tell you to, and acting the way I want you to act.
Plus, you just get to dance around the prince at some point. And yeah,
What?
Spoilers.
Prince in this? More Prince?
I know it's been a while, but yeah, Prince is in the movie.
Wow, I think that should be a spoiler alert.
But anyway, the rest of the minute though, Alfred, like, he goes to take off to go get the files, the information on Jack Napier.
Yeah, interesting that Bruce sends him to go and get the file. Because why does Alfred have access to these files, or whatever? I assume it's not computer data. It could be. He's got a back computer.
Oh, it's all public records of just him walking in with his bowler hat and his like, can I have information on the deceased Jack Napier? Oh, yeah. No
Why,
problem.
yes. Here you go.
I'll just get all these boxes of stuff up for you now, sir.
What doesn't this man do? How can one man be running this mansion? I know there's only one resident, but bloody hell, the amount of dusting. Jeez.
Yeah, I can imagine it. Maybe with the Jeremy Irons version, but like.
Yeah, not this guy.
This is just like, this guy, I don't know if he can get. This could be like 5 days he's away getting these files because he's that old. But
although I do like it as Alfred leaves, like Bruce, he kind of comes to his senses a little bit here, doesn't he? Because he says, in relation to Vicki, she really is great, isn't she? It's like, oh yes, that's our Brucey boy back, baby. He's being sweet again. Sweet.
Just wondering what sparked that memory. What thing is he thinking of from that night that's like, oh yeah, she was pretty great. Like, it's just like,
oh god, no, you're taking it in a dirty route. Oh,
bring the tone down,
ruining the show. No, I mean it could be that. I don't see why, because he doesn't really seem to like the relationship side of things, as we've established. I mean, he's not a playboy, but he doesn't really want a girlfriend.
I guess maybe it is just like, Vicki did seem, in all fairness, Vicki did seem very charming on that date. Like they did have a good rapport. I guess it's just like, yeah, she's an interesting person, war photographer and all this, and she's been out in the world, seen some stuff. She'd be an interesting person to have around, But
well, he probably only gets gold diggers knocking at the door, doesn't he? Because he doesn't really go out and meet women. So the few he's probably been in contact with have probably approached him.
I'm surprised that's like a well they never really tapped in these films of like the other. Bruce's other escapades, but again, it's supposed to be, as far as we know about this version of him, there haven't been many. It seems to be that Vicki could be potentially the first.
Are you saying this is the original 40-year-old virgin?
Could be. You never know. Yeah. Although you probably would say like, well, he's off traveling. I'm sure you could say, oh, maybe he hooked up with Zantana or something overseas. But yeah, well, we'll never know, because even if you try to pitch them a comic book continuation of the thing, no one wants to know, apparently. So,
let's make our own. I don't care.
Yeah, but in terms of like notes for this minute, though, that's me. It is we weren't lying when we said it's dry. It's not.
Well, yeah, we gave you an extra long episode on Monday so we could take most of the rest of the week off. Basically, it was all a ploy.
It was just good timing, because it's just like, well, thankfully, well, actually, if Beck had done these minutes, there might have been more to talk about, because we could have bounced off her. But yeah, at present, I think this is all we got. So
yeah, I mean, the only other thing I've got, which isn't particularly thrilling, is that the original draft has a little section here, slightly different, because it cuts to a bit with Vicki and Knox, and they go to lunch. Because Bruce has been ignoring her calls and messages, which is even more kind of rude than what we get in the movie. Because Alfred's giving him the messages and he just isn't replying, basically. And during the dinner scene, lunch scene, depends what you want to call it, dinner, lunch, this is a UK debate. Knox reveals that he thinks that Bruce is Batman. He's on the case already. He's like, yep, it's him. So that was just quite interesting that it's still relatively early in the movie.
As I recall in that original draft, Knox is a much more kind of dynamic character. Like, he does way more. Like, we'll get to it, at the appropriate time, but like, Knox is the person who accidentally creates the back signal and stuff in it. Like, it's like it's a much bigger part of the whole shebang. But I guess maybe when they found out to cast Robert Wuhl, they're like, oh boy, let's just see if some of these pages go missing mysteriously. But I'm sure we get to talk a bit more about Knox in the next episode, though, because he doesn't appear, but his voice does. So,
well, a nice little teaser for Friday there. So from that nice little Friday teaser, we are going to head off and finish this Wednesday episode. You'll have to join us again for more exciting action on Friday. And make sure to chat to us on Facebook, because we've got the Bat Minute 89 Listeners Society, which is a thrilling place for us all to be nerdy little geeks together. Ugh, we're horrible. And tweet us at BatMinute89. We're very active on there as well. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. That's the most helpful thing for us. Every time you do that, we get a little bump. More people see us. More people see us. And, the more that see us, the better we do. And the more enthusiastic we are. So, yes, we are going off into that dark night. Join us again on Friday, because we will be back with minute 51 of Batman.
Next time, happy, snappy scrapbooking! As Batman and his manservant discuss reluctant romance and things that are nice, which sinister snipper is amputating heads with a scissor and slice? Find out next time. Same Bat Pod.
Different Bat Minute.